As we've heard, the South Carolina House has passed a bill that requires parental consent for children to engage over social media. Well, we wanted to hear what parents had to say, and I'm happy to welcome Candace Harriet, Charleston mom, to a beautiful young lady on the cusp of teenagerdom. I cannot imagine that your daughter is already going to be 13.
Me either, but she can, and she's been counting down the days.
Wow, goodness. Well, I appreciate you coming in to share your thoughts on this. You know, those who voted against the bill, they say we shouldn't get into people's houses and tell them how to raise their kids. However, I think there has to be some guardrails to instill when you as a parent are making sure your daughter isn't exposed to certain things while other parents are not. So how do you feel about the House passing this bill?
Well, I think, our dialogue kind of started with, I said I have a lot of feelings and thoughts on it, but overall, I think it's a great thing. I think having some more protection items in place for minors, especially, some kids are 8, 9 years old that have cell phones that aren't really watched by their parents. And it's kind of like the same reason that we teach our kids from a young age, hold my hand when you cross the street. Yeah. They don't know innately that if they go into the street at 2 or 3 years old, they could get hurt.
That's right.
A 12 or 13-year-old doesn't know how to look out for somebody who's pretending to be a teenager but's really an adult and looking to prey on children.
Sure. And when you had your daughter, we had smartphones this whole entire time. Mm-hmm. So how did you start introducing that technology, and what were your guardrails to make sure that she wasn't getting exposed to things that you didn't want her to?
Mm-hmm. A couple things. I think technology for our family in particular, my daughter's getting ready to turn 13, is a little different because she turned 8 years old right when COVID hit. And so the world was changing, and very quickly. And to be able to see your friends or talk to your friends, it was like with Zoom calls or with FaceTime and things like that. So technology is so amazing that it keeps people connected. But it's really, I think, like most things in parenting, setting up parameters and expectations of this is how we're going to use these things, this is what you're allowed to do, and it will keep changing, and that conversation evolves, but right now this is what it is.
Does she have access to Instagram, to Facebook, to all those things?
So she's had a phone since, I think, we really kind of loosened up the rules a little bit with the iPad at 8. And I think she really did get her first phone at 11. Okay. But it was with a lot of regulation and with a lot of oversight and her understanding, I'm going to be looking at your phone. These are the things you're allowed to do and not do. We have a little bit of a unique situation because a lot of my job is built around managing other companies' Instagram accounts.
Now, none of us live in silos, so how does this affect her social life? Does it affect her social life? Are you in agreement with other parents and have a similar parenting style, or are you butting heads in any way, or it's incongruous to what other parents are doing?
Always shifting.
It is.
It's always, there's a lot of fluidity, there's a lot of conversation constantly happening. Some of her friends, like us, there's a lot of rules and a lot of oversight, and no, we're not doing TikTok, we're not doing Instagram, you're not having your own account on those things. But I would say there's a lot of kids her age that do. And so it's been interesting talking to her and her friends and trying to figure out, what do you feel like you're left out on? Do you feel like kids your age are honest with their parents? Yeah. And there is a very strong consensus that a lot of kids lie to their parents, or their parents just aren't checking.
Really?
Yeah. A 13-year-old lying?
I know, right?
Or that the parents just really aren't asking.
Right.
And assuming that their kids do not have it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it sounds like you have a lot of open communication with your daughter, and it seems like communication is getting lost between parent and child. Not saying that that's the case everywhere, but they just sort of assume that their kids are doing the right thing, but really they need to be asking the questions. They need to be, and it's not snooping around. When you're paying the phone bill, that's your phone, so you have every right to look into it and see what they're up to.
Absolutely, and I think it's just parenting.
Right.
It's that checks and balances and checking in with your kid, but also as a parent going behind and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to, because they are learning. That's normal, and it's normal for them to want to explore things and to be curious about things. But a big part of it is just, I think the more involved you are, the more conversation, hopefully there's more trust that's kind of built along the way.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you have any advice for parents out there who now have children who are coming up and going to be handed a phone for this next holiday season or their birthday or whatever, and really have no history or experience in this realm?
So I think it's about setting clear expectations and keeping that conversation very strong. And yes, it could change. Yes, maybe I will allow you to go on, Instagram when you're 16 or 17. But right now, this is the boundary. This is the expectation. And I think if you go into it like that, they know what to expect. I think kids behave better, they respond better, and they're looking for that guidance, whether sometimes they admit it or not, and maybe it's not consciously, but they feel safer knowing what the boundaries are.
It's instinctive. They've done scientific experiments on this. Children love to be told no because they need to know what those boundaries are, if they can push back or not.
Right.
Yeah. So this is
it's
the
part of
science.
it. It's part of growing up. And when we think about when we were 13 years old,
Sure, of course.
I didn't think my parents knew anything. I still don't know if they do.
No.
But no, all jokes aside, they're trying to figure it out. It creates a baseline for kids to realize it's not just your parents saying, I'm being strict, or I don't trust you, or I'm being a helicopter parent. Yeah. This is a law for a reason, and it's not just my feelings. It's the fact that a lot of other people believe too that this is the best way to start that.
Indeed. Candace, thank you so much. So good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
We're back after this.